Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I have with me Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar back in his own base in the chair where a lot of articles have been written. Sir, good evening and welcome to this episode on the Indian neighborhood.
Thanks a lot, Adi. It's a pleasure to be with you and back in Chennai in my own house. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
Yeah. It just went off. So there was some glitch.
No problem, sir.
Uh,
We are back and square one. Let's start.
Great. Right. So we start with the neighborhood. This is important, which is in trouble, and it will affect India and has a huge bearing on where India has to look in times to come. So let's start.
Sometimes I really feel India अपना तो संभाल लेगा. We'll be able to set up our own house for till whatever little thing, but the neighborhood is going to drag us down for a little bit, sir. I want to start
Well,
with the cold country today. It's going through heavy winters. Nepal. Prachanda is back. He's allegedly a very pro-China person. There are ambassadors visiting the sites of proposed BRI projects. BRI has been spoken about by him as well, that he will put some special focus into it and stuff like that. But the big knife on their throat is FATF, sir. Economically bad. Now, what's going to happen here?
look, first and foremost, Nepali politics are quite episodic. You know, they have these three, four parties. वहाँ merry-go-round होता रहता है.
Hmm.
So one of them forms a coalition with the other, and they come in. And they have a pre-election uh, deal invariably to garner votes. But having got that after the election, they go with someone else. So it's like that. And average the time period of a Nepali PM in chair is about 1.5 to 2 years. I don't think anyone has lasted more than that ever since the monarchy was constitutionally taken out. So at this point of time with Prachanda in, he is it's advantage China. FATF will be there, so Nepal will be under pressure. But the more important thing is, I read an article today which says, "Oh, the things are opened up and everything is good and all." Uh, while the Chinese are here, everything is fine and all. We are waiting for their tourists to come in. But more importantly, a lot of Indian tourists are coming
Hmm.
in to Nepal.
Highest contribution, yes, sir.
Yeah, and so it is due to religion, sightseeing, everything. So they realize the importance of India at grassroots level. That won't go away, right? But the thing which concerns me is that road. You know, um, Raswagadi to Kathmandu. The road, in any case, is there, the railway track.
Railway track along that.
The railway track, and that's been revived till last year, till this elections. That was a dead topic. Now it has been revived. It's been agreed to that a feasibility study will carry on. Maybe in the next 10, 15 years, 20 years, that railway track will come. That changes a lot of equations with Nepal, as far as we are concerned, because that enables, with the road Kodari Highway, it enables China's build up well into Nepal, and they can appear unopposed in the Terai region, PLA, or that outflanks all your defenses. It it hits your security where it matters most, your heartland. That means if tomorrow there is PLA across Gorakhpur, don't be surprised. That's the danger. So I think India has to, you know, do a lot of things to put things in the right perspective.
That is indeed, sir. But what can India do to kind of stop something like this? At the end of it, the Tarai region is something that we've discussed quite a bit, and it's a danger which is, I think, everybody's aware. What can we do?
See, all you can do is get the people on your side. Okay, there's a good case for us to use all the ex-servicemen, politicize them, which we have not done so far. Okay, um, go in for more tourism projects, energy projects, buy energy from them. Right? A lot of things which can be done diplomatically, economically, uh, to get Nepal back on track. Right. So let's see. It's interesting times ahead. But knowing Nepal, within another year or so, Prachanda will go, someone else will come, and something else will happen. Well, and everything will be very slow.
Hmm.
Uh, one need not be very overtly worried about it, but you can't stop worrying about it also. So that's where I leave. I think we can leave Nepal.
Hmm, that's interesting. I think you've mentioned everything is very slow. That's I think a very interesting statement. Let's move over east a little bit. So Bangladesh, the political tussle, of course, continues. It's it keeps building up and coming down. There's violence and there's religious violence that takes place in that place. Uh, but that's kind of, I think, the part of being Bangladesh itself. The
See,
Indo-Bangladesh pipeline is something. Why don't you?
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to put three things out. The pipeline, which is supposed to start in February, not a very great capacity or anything like that, but it is a link. So there's energy today because of the energy market. And of course, there's a fleeting visit of the Chinese foreign minister, midnight visit, who stopped over in Dhaka, met his counterpart for an hour, and took off back to Beijing on his way from Africa. And this is the brand new Chamaktawa, latest foreign minister of China, sir.
Mm. Look, while what all you said has weight, it's very apparent that China wants to get Bangladesh back in its court. Okay, and it sees the current problem, the political problem, uh, as the right base for them to enter back. They had lost their ground due to many reasons. Now they see sense an opportunity in gaining it back. Now this whole story is important only for one reason. Bangladesh has the capability to give China a naval base. Okay, and if you there's a Rand report on this issue where it says that one of the bases which China seeks is in Bangladesh. So one has to be very wary about it. At the same time, we have to increase our exposure to Bangladesh so that the Chinese connect is nullified. Right? It did happen when the previous Dalai Lama was being picked up. When sorry, uh, I lost track. Sorry.
No, you
Uh,
said expanding the base within Bangladesh.
yeah, the in Bangladesh, because as per that Rand report, uh, they want a base in Bangladesh.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's where they'll woo Bangladesh, and they see this as an opportunity. China sees this as an opportunity where there's political turmoil in Bangladesh. Though they would have spoken to this minister, they would be already speaking to the opposition also.
Hmm.
So one has to be a little careful in this entire story. There is instability. Financially they are in problems. Politically, Bangladesh is in problems. There is a that latent anti-India sentiment is coming up. So the whole lot of things. Uh, One has to be a little careful about this whole story.
So one of the things that the Chinese would want to do is have basing kind of facilities built up within Pakistan and Bangladesh, and this is something again we've discussed before. Pakistan, of course, they've got a certain inroad. How deep that is, we can, and we will discuss Pakistan on another forum, another discussion. But are you worried about the basing facilities, if any, with where the Chinese have created within the ports of Bangladesh, sir?
See, the Chinese have not created any basing facilities in Bangladesh so far. In fact, they wanted a base.
I think for some reason General Shankar has just dropped off. I'll just wait for him to come up. By the time, guys, I'd request all of you guys to please hit the like button. Yeah, that's something that really helps me to increase the viewership of the channel, and thankfully we are doing decently well than before. Closing into 10,000 subscribers, I think within the next 8 to 9 days. Please hit the like button. Check your subscriptions if you have switched on the bell icons or not. Please do, if you can, contribute to the Dev Talks efforts. You have a website for for my channel as well. It's called thedevtalks.com. You can visit where I've written certain articles and collections of all the videos that have been kind of put across in over time into particular folders and stuff like that. I think one thing we will talk about in terms of Bangladesh is, I want to actually discuss this with Sir, as Sir was talking about, was the basing rights that are coming in, that the Chinese need. The Chinese have been trying to do that in the ports in Myanmar as well, the ports in Kaikfu. Then you've got a port in Pakistan where the Chinese submarines are there. So that's one of the reasons why the Chinese have been selling submarines to Pakistan, is because they kind of want to build the port facilities for their submarines to dock whenever they do need that to happen. Bangladesh, as I was saying, has not really got the submarine port as of now. But it's always a danger that you kind of uh, can get into in terms of what the Chinese would be able to should be would be able to, I think, want to do in Bangladesh. The main thing, I think Sir mentioned this, and I want to take a minute to comment by the time Sir just joins back, uh, is is the factor that Bangladesh is an interesting scenario. Why? Because the political turmoil in Bangladesh provides for an opportunity for the Chinese to kind of stream in, and we have Sir back again.
Yeah, sorry, there
No
was
problem,
a
sir.
power failure here.
That's all right. So I was actually talking to people about the basing rights that you were talking about, sir. I mean, they've been trying to do this in Pakistan. Kaikfu, of course, there are rumors of something happening, and now Bangladesh. You were telling us
Yeah,
about
there's a
their plans.
port called Sonadia. Somewhere there, the Chinese were trying to get basing rights and develop that port.
Hmm.
But a few years back, this is something a little earlier, Bangladesh cancelled the Chinese project and gave it to Japan.
Japan.
So to
Hmm.
that extent, China has been kept at bay there. But they will always try for basing rights in Dhaka or Cox's Bazar, wherever, right? Uh, if they can get that, it's the best for them. They don't want to go through, then they don't have to traverse Myanmar, which is quite unstable. Okay. So that is the Chinese ploy. Well, let's see where it goes.
So
We have to
just
be careful and ensure that this doesn't happen,
absolutely.
and we need to convey this to Bangladesh in no uncertain terms, right? So that's where we are. But more importantly than basing rights and all come much more down the line. At this point of time, we have to see how do you play the Bangladesh card, given the fact that they have turmoil, political and economic, with religious overtones. So, how do you douse this flame is India's challenge.
That's interesting. So, and I mean, just a small follow up on Bangladesh. You mentioned political turmoil, and the Chinese would take advantage, and they're kind of famous for that, doing stuff like that. So that is a dangerous situation, which I personally find. Uh, and the Chinese have no qualms, indulging in
Yeah,
nefarious
they
activities,
that they will. That they will.
which we don't do. So
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
Hmm. No doubt.
So coming down south, let's go to Sri Lanka. Of course, Sri Lanka has a lot happening in the country. IMF didn't really work out for them back in November, December timeframe. Uh, Canada has sanctioned the Rajapaksa family. As a matter of fact, he's trying for his US visa to be reinstated so that he can go back. Uh, that's an interesting move. I don't know what's his political future or the control factor that he wants to keep there. Austerity measures have come in, which are even worse than the last time. The electricity tariffs have been raised up. Last time it was done in August by about 75%. This time they're another 25%. So, guys, it's basically, more than 100% double, 100% overcharge than last year. They have started using Indian rupee, so that's a good control in terms of not control, but good influence within Sri Lanka. And Bangladesh is also talking about using of Indian rupee for trade. So there's some scope there. Not very interesting, but a little scary. But 20,000 defense personnel were delisted because of desertion.
Hmm. They would have, because in this tough times, a lot of funny things happen,
So
right? So they're doing what they're supposed to do. But till Rajpaksha's, Rajpaksha going to Canada or USA or wherever, one of the best things that can happen to to Sri Lanka, and I hope it does happen. If he gets out of the frame, things will start stabilizing. Economically, well, we know that they're going to be in a problem. They're going to continue this issue. It's not going to be easy. The recovery is not going to be easy, right? And with China not willing to forego any loan or restructure their loans, there are issues. The road ahead for Sri Lanka is problematic. Again, if you read the RAND report, the three bases which China seeks most is Dhaka, Hambantota, and Gwadar.
Gwadar.
They are the prime bases. And in my own view, Hambantota is probably the most critical one. So China will not let go because it's got its hooks deep into Sri Lanka. It is up to us to how to cut those hooks off.
Economically, they're in trouble. So there's no question about it. They're long lines and stuff like that. But thankfully, Sri Lanka has been peaceful at this time. They've
Yeah,
received
well,
some tourists.
people can't go anywhere, but if things go worse and things don't improve, unrest might get back.
I mean, some sort of, I don't know what's the word for it, but Atmanirbharta did come into that place because tourists came in, some forex came in, stabilized for a little bit, but then I think
Yeah,
long
let's
term it's.
see. I mean, I wouldn't give up hope on Sri Lanka,
Hmm.
but at the same time, things are what they are, and we have to play the game accordingly.
Which area don't we have to play games?
Yeah, that is there. If you want to be a regional power, you must play the game well.
Yeah. And guys, we can spend half an hour or 45 minutes talking about Pakistan, which of course everybody would expect to be the next subject. I don't want to do that because I want to keep that for Sunday. So let's keep the Pakistan questions away, and we'll just brush through over it. Just let's say 30 seconds of an answer from Jan Shankar, because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. This situation in Pakistan is opening up right now.
Look,
It'll be too early.
situation in Pakistan is I I was thinking Pakistan is like Sinbad the sailor with old man Afghanistan round its head. Okay,
Yeah,
and walking a tight rope on a rope which is burning at both ends. Okay, so we'll leave Sinbad the sailor and his old man to whatever they can do. After all, now Pakistan has also been named in that uranium catch in Heathrow. right? So there is more, and I suppose by Sunday things will clear up, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. But just a minute on Afghanistan, sir. Whatever said on that country has been chugging along. Um, there have been
Look,
issues. The biggest thing coming out, sorry, is
yeah,
the Kabul blast that happened today in the foreign ministry against the Chinese, or looks like it was against the Chinese. And the second
let
incident, sir.
uh, Afghanistan remains what it is, an unstable country uh, where normal human rights are going to be remain squashed. Okay, but the new factor is that their enmity towards Pakistan has come out loud and clear, right? And their propensity to use violence as the means, the first resort, not the last resort, it's the first resort, will continue. So it's quite a complicated kind of a country now. So let us see where it goes. And
Yeah, I
this
mean,
Taliban, you know, everyone said that they'll be bad, but no one expected them to be so bad. And least of all, Pakistan.
no, we spoke about it so many times on the channel where we've kind of said that these guys don't realize what mess they're getting into. But anyways, let's leave that for Sunday and we'll talk about it, sir. But Myanmar, sir, yeah, now this is interesting and this connects Pakistan because the
Yeah.
Pakistanis put out this big hour today. Oh, Indian territory has been bombed and this and that and the whole lot.
That's two stray bombs which might have come over. There are reports which say it didn't come over, they fell in between somewhere in some dry nala.
Yes.
But that's all fine. The problem in Myanmar is a little more deeper than two bombs falling on the Indian soil by mistake. The problem is the ethnic divide and the political divide is now very deep. The country is very unstable, and there are a lot of people vying for it. Russia, China, India, ASEAN. A lot of people have their foot in the game. Uh, the local people are suffering. On that, there's no doubt. Uh, it's a pretty tricky situation.
Yeah, Aung San Suu Kyi is getting, I think they should build up a nice big jail for her and just be done with it. This putting out, you've been sentenced 7 years, okay? 2 months later, another 7 years. 2 months later, another 7 years. Another 7 years. Another 7 years. I think 5, 6 times it has happened now.
Yeah, that's how it is. And actually, if you go back into the history of Myanmar, it's always been like this.
Yeah.
Political opponents have been safely locked away in a jail. Uh,
And they
right?
kept well, huh? It's not that they're beaten
No,
up
no,
or
no,
anything
no.
like that. Keep it properly.
Yeah.
So she's also got, by the way, she's locked into some palace or something like that with proper care and everything like that. But she's brought in chains and taken out in chains and
Yeah,
everything.
that's okay. That is part of public posturing to show everyone that they are in control. And which they are in control. The Tatmadaw is in control of the whole situation. They'll not let Aung San Suu Kyi come out. In any case, when even if she does come out, she has not proven herself to be great
Yeah.
as of doing something for Myanmar. Actually, in her time, the violence really started at that time. So, what? Whom are we talking of? Right? It's going to continue. Myanmar is going to continue in problems.
Yeah, of course. There is a, as we were talking before the show started, so the revolutionary forces, which are the combination of Chin Army, the combination of this national unity government with this People's Defense Force. So these little guys are around, and there's a talk within the there's a Southeast Asian newspaper, I forget the name, which talks about an offensive that these guys are planning in against the army. I don't know how far that will be successful, but there is a churn movement within these opposition forces.
Let's see, because the opposition is not that well armed, nor is it that well funded the way the army is. Because the army controls all the mineral resources of Myanmar.
Yeah.
and the gas and oil resources.
Hmm.
So funding at some point of time will hit all the parties. So let's not think that the parties have will ever rise to defeat the army. Very difficult.
Guys, before I just get into your questions, and please do start, there are lots of here, and please do start putting in more. So my one point to you is about very simple. There are two countries if you compare India and China. India is a country that has issues with all its neighbors, not propagated by us, and there's China as a country that has issues with all its neighbors, propagated by it.
Well, that's how India and China are. So that's the difference between a democracy and a communism.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's get into the questions. Naveen, thank you so much for your contribution, sir. Given your love for cricket, we look at India Bangladesh matches of late. We see a negative turn to the dynamic per the cap. We're only here at the World Cup to spoil it for India. Is that the sentiment widely shared?
I wouldn't say so because Bangladesh has performed well against India and many other teams at various
Hmm.
points of time. Uh, so even in the recent World Cup, they did well, right? Which was in Australia. So while you can draw political equations between the matches and the general situation, geopolitical situation, I think it's a far stretch. It's better to we analyze things separately.
Separately. Bharat, we will be talking about Pakistan as mentioned on Sunday, so please stay tuned for that. Uh, let's. This is an interesting question. So, what if the opposition party in Bangladesh comes to power in the future?
We deal with them.
I knew you would say that.
We don't have a choice. We deal with them. Yeah,
Just like you're dealing with the Taliban, you'll have to probably
yeah,
deal with them
we deal
also.
with them.
But one thing is, those guys aren't pro-China.
Look, let's see how things go. Okay,
Yeah,
we shouldn't.
they aren't pro anything. As a matter of fact, they are
Yeah.
pro their, the whole ideological issue. Sir Swaroop Shetty says, why doesn't India upgrade the Quad to a security alliance? If China is threat and financially we can't compete with, then we should form an alliance and take the headache to China.
Well, Quad is quadrilateral security dialogue. Okay, so it's already security, and most of its activities are all security. Only thing it does not
Maritime,
formalize it. So there is again, I get to that. It's an implied threat, not an applied threat.
applied threat.
So there's more value in that.
To add to what you're saying, sir, as a matter of fact, the Chinese don't talk about AUKUS and this and that. They talk about the Quad
That's what.
more often than anything else. They're worried about that. Uh, you ask what did Myanmar do in Mizoram border? We've discussed that, so let's leave that apart. Chinese base in Bangladesh seems more of a problem in peacetime where they can spy rather than in wartime where they would not survive a concentrated attack from India.
Well, you can't look at this in such cut and dry and black and white terms. Many of these actions are always in the gray zone. Okay, basing is something not so simple. Basing is just not giving port facilities to the other country. Basing means having accommodation, having ammunition, having repair refit, having surveillance equipment, a lot. So let's not jump to conclusions about bases or otherwise. And can't go around attacking bases in of two countries in a third country.
That is, of course. So this is a little bit of a pointed question, but it does pose a problem in terms of the whole culture in Sri Lanka, which talks about mass conversion and stuff like that. The factor that I want to talk about is that Sri Lankans have gone through this for decades now. They've
Look,
had
this
this
factor which is happening, conversion, this and that, is a ongoing stuff. It's only that no today something has come into news and we are reacting. Uh, it's not so.
in the north.
I mean, if you have to take points out of nothing, you can take this up. But I think when you look at geopolitical terms at a broader level, you have to understand that these things will happen. You also have to understand that this is not a new phenomenon in this area. Okay, so deal with it. You have to deal with it.
More than POJK, Nepal is a natural partner that can integrate with India, not territory, but India can handle defense, EM, finance with autonomy. Your view, who's responsible for the fall of Nepal monarchy?
Look, again, this is all wishful thinking. We don't need anyone else. We don't need Nepal. We don't need Bhutan. We don't need, you know, POK. We don't need to become hegemonistic like China. Let people live in peace. Let those governments go on for themselves. Nepal has never been part of the British Dominion. Also, you have to understand that. Why you want to go and integrate Nepal with you? And do they want to integrate with you?
Big question.
This is the next question is so if they don't want to integrate with you, then you're going to go and capture it or invade Nepal. That's the most foolish thing we can do, right? We'll leave
Mountain.
it at that. I mean, I don't think we should get. No, I find many people think that we should go and do this, we should do that, we should do. The military option is the last option.
Yeah.
Okay. The geopolitical option is also almost the last option. The first, I would say, the grassroots political option, economic and diplomatic will pay more.
In the long term,
Yeah, in the long term.
absolutely. It's beneficial both the sides, as a matter of fact. And guys, this is one thing I want to bring about. There's a lot of rhetoric that flies around in terms of analysis within our airwaves. And that's something that needs to be kept in mind because, a lot of times the rhetoric sounds good, but it's not really practical on the ground. We've discussed POJK in a wonderful talk that Shil Shankar had given, and we went through the nits and bears of what POJK or POK, as we call it, would do to us. It's not something that we would want. So that's,
No,
if I say that,
we have to be very careful with what we speak. You're not been to that territory for 75 years. It's changed
yeah,
demography. A lot of changes have taken place. Political issues have come and gone. Come and gone. Many things we have forgotten. We don't even know its history. I mean, not from a historical point of view, but from a normal point of view, you don't remember why that happened. So we should be a little careful when we say, "Oh, you do this, you do that, you go and capture this, you don't, take it as they come." Yeah.
Venkat and Naveen, I will take your question in a minute, but this is I think Amay is playing the devil's advocate, and let's discuss it a bit further. So why can't we be a bit aggressive in Nepal for the railway link? It's a huge risk for us and nobody can't play it down.
Look, we did carry a stick some time back and impose the, blockade and all that, road blockades and everything. It backfired badly.
Yeah.
It's better to win them over and negate the railway track rather than being pig-headed and aggressive about it. Aggression has limits beyond which it will fail.
Indeed. This Thank you so much, Mr. Venkat. This question is not on the subject, so I'll leave it to you if you would like to take it up. CAG report on DRDO. Do you get feedback about quality of Indian built artillery?
Yeah.
Let's move forward. So is India and Israel in Asia with no good neighbors? I understand it's not a good parallel given the
No, look,
that
look, the
that actually
difference.
is
No, no,
interesting.
there's a difference. Wait, let me explain. Israel is a country with about 47, 48 nationalities. When Israel was formed, no one from these nationalities had any connect with the Arabs around. So there was an ethnic divide between Israel and its neighbors. That's not the case with India. India and its neighbors are a hub and spoke affair where for each country the hub is India. and people are connected seamlessly across the. For example, you look at people in Bihar, people in Madhesh, and people, they're connect, right?
Uttarakhand, yeah, exactly.
People in Bangladesh speak Bengali well. All that, that those culture, everything has a connect, seamless connect. So you can't say that the situations are equal. And Israel is a tiny country, whereas you whelm all your small neighbors. All your small neighbors could fit into two states or three states of India. So we shouldn't equate that way, right? Uh, it's better to take everyone along with you than do Israeli kind of actions.
Absolutely, sir. This is, I think you're one of the first people who's going to say that around the place because everybody says,
No, well,
it
why
Israel does
why
this
should
good.
I say? Because Israel itself is dealing now with UAE. They've got a pact.
Yeah,
Okay, they have softened their attitude towards Arabs. Okay, we have historical and cultural linkages with our neighbors.
because
So why should we be enemies with them?
that is, I think, the most important point, sir. Naveen, thank you so much. Sir, on a lighter note, are there any bright spots, any positives? How's Bhutan? And do people who know the inside info sleep at night?
Look, Bhutan is okay. In fact, I will not be too worried about the neighborhood beyond a point. I'm worried. We need to rectify it. We need to stabilize it. Fine. There's one fundamental issue in our neighborhood. The people there know ultimately they have to come back to India for many things. That's always the bright spot in our neighborhood. So we need to use that to get the best for ourselves and the neighbors.
And the last part, sir, is a little funny comment on that. Do people who know the inside information do sleep at night?
Well, I don't know what the inside information he's talking about, so I really won't comment.
But sir, the part of centrality of India within the Indian neighborhood, sir, uh, there is, of course, ethnic, there's religious, there is human connect. There's a lot of intermingling, except for Pakistan. There's a lot of intermingling that happens with the rest of the neighbors, even Myanmar for that matter. There is sort of a people to people linkage that could be exploited.
Yeah, must be. It should be. There's no doubt about it. We must exploit this link, right? That will do us a lot of good rather than fighting with our neighborhood.
Absolutely. I think Pratim is mentioning the same thing, sir. So, what should be a proactive strategy for security threat through Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Nepal rather than dealing with it when it comes? Because their economic growth would be also a great opportunity for us.
Well, there is some truth. Their economic growth is a great opportunity for us, is given. Can I have that question back? Yeah. Why do you need a proactive strategy always?
Mhm.
Why can't you just have just an active strategy, not for security, but on a people's to people's contact, so that the security issue gets nullified automatically? Okay. And why? I mean, when there's turmoil there, you want to go and put your foot in and get caught in the turmoil. Why do you want to do that? So, again, all these come to from the thing that you want to do something. Many times, not doing something is the better part than doing something. In this case, we have to calibrate what we have to do with each country based on the merits of that country and the equation with them. For example, Bhutan, we need to protect it.
Hmm.
Sri Lanka, we need to regain it. Okay. Now, Bangladesh, we need to ensure that they don't slip into the Chinese camp. And as far as Nepal is concerned, we should ensure that they remain neutral. So the game plan for each has to be different. And Myanmar, we should say, okay, yeah, let जितना लड़ना है लड़ लो उसके बाद शांत हो जाओ.
You can be the guy that spreads out the table and says, "आओ यार बैठ के भी बात करते हैं." हो गया.
Yeah, that also
बहुत
is
से जो.
there. So you have a lot of leeway to do many things other than just being proactive.
That's an interesting point of view. Naveen, thank you so much. This is, I think, taking from what you say, sir, he's saying everything from you said, it's almost as if these nations are going through a rebellious teenage phase, hence a soft approach is needed.
I won't put it that way because student agitations and student protests erupt in a different manner. That's not happened here. Except to some extent in Bangladesh, nowhere else.
Eh, Yeah, I mean, this is a personal question, sir. Who's the author of that Manik Shawji's biography?
Oh, that's his ex ADC, Brigadier Behram Pantke.
People
He
are.
gave it to me. He presented this book to me. It's a coffee table book. It's a beautiful book. Um, much after it retired, when I was the GOC of MNG area, and, he did a book launch in Kolaba or one of those places, and that was I couldn't attend that event because I was away from Bombay at that point of time. So when I came back to Bombay, I met him and he presented this book to me.
It's a noticeable book, sir.
Yeah.
It's pretty large in size. Last two questions, sir. Sir, the rise of ISIS in Kerala and Tamil Nadu would be a great cause of worry for Sri Lanka too. Also, are they part of the same nexus? Now, that is
Let-
an interesting thing with regards to what happened in Easter bombing and stuff like that. So,
Look, ISIS has been active to some level in the Muslim communities in this area uh, because that's where the breeding ground lies.
actually,
But have they been fully successful? It depends on whom you listen to. You listen to a pessimistic who feels everything has gone bad, you will say that ISI is ruling these areas or ISIS is ruling these areas. But if you look at an optimist and say, okay, yeah, this is what it has done and nothing more, and this is the way we have to deal with it, it's a different story altogether. I would prefer to be in the second story.
as a matter of fact, one thing that I noticed from your answer is also to add, there's a lot which is happening at the back end. So we
Yeah.
shouldn't be kind of
Hey,
discounting the
look,
agencies and the
e-
forces and stuff like
every
that.
play which happens, there's a back end.
There's a back end.
So, so let's not.
India में ना सर एक that one thing is there because a lot of the back end stuff doesn't come out the way it should come out. People have this thing यार कोई कुछ करता नहीं है. But that's not the case. There's a lot that
No.
happens. You got to read between the lines. So that's something which is very interesting. And the last question, sir, can we India get to the backyard of China? Why do we worry about China? We should reverse course as well, right, sir? Don't we have enough money to do so?
Yeah, we don't have enough money. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. And the real backyard in which you have to enter is Xinjiang and Tibet. Uh, it's a government policy. I will not comment on it.
That we don't have money because at the end of it, if you look at the
Yeah, we
total
don't
debt,
have money.
yeah, that the Chinese have put into this place, these
It's
places,
much more than what you can think of.
or also much more than what is announced.
Yeah, I agree with
There's
you.
a lot of back end debt. So this is an interesting episode. There's a request that has come out. It's always insightful session with Jan Shankar. Is it possible next time that we can have a talk on India's internal security
Yeah, we'll
challenges with
try.
Jan Shankar? We'll try and do that. Sir, thank you so much for this particular discussion. Neighborhood is something me and Jan Shankar have been doing for I think about a year and a half now, sir. Every
Yeah.
30, 45 days
And
we
our
are.
neighborhood has come a long way.
Yeah, and we've been talking about from the days where we didn't have any movement to today where you find
Yeah,
Indian fingerprints in pretty much every neighborhood. So that's one development that has happened
great
over the past.
development. It's a great
Yes,
development.
yes, sir.
It's a very important point you made,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we guys have been following it, and we see that there are fingerprints moving around. And guys, I personally find, and sir also pointed this out, impatience will not really work well with regards to neighborhood countries, because remember, they're the countries of their own. As you are proud of your country, good, bad, or ugly, they are proud of theirs. So
Give
nobody's
them
going to
space.
step in.
Give them space.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line of this discussion. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in as usual, always, and welcome back to India. Looking forward to the Sunday
Yeah.
session on breakneck Pakistan.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the show. I must confess that I'm very sleepy, actually jet lagged.
Yeah, I can
Immediately
imagine.
after this, I'm
That's
just going
what
to go.
that's what I'm saying. Thank you so much. You've still taken out the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and see you again on Sunday. By the time, I think you're going to be well rested and top of the game.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks, sir. Cheers.